So again, we are covering the Harvey Weinstein case happening just a few miles from where we are here at the Law and Crime Trial Studio. We have our very own Jesse Weber, who's reporting and sitting there all day this morning. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm good, Brian. We saw quite the morning today. The defense called their second witness, and her name is Dr. Elizabeth Loftus. She is a psychologist, a distinguished professor, and she's being called to talk about memory. Now, it should be noted that her testimony was limited by the judge. She could talk about memory retention and memory generally, but she couldn't get into the specifics of this case or even sexual assault or sexual assault cases. And what she said is that memory and how you retain a memory can be affected by a number of different factors. Obviously, memories fade over time. But what really got interesting is she said that memories are affected by something called post-event information. And these can distort memories. So things like suggestions that somebody hears, or leading questions, or media coverage, or therapy, that can all contaminate and change one's memories of what actually happened. And she moved on to say that if someone is asked to remember something in order to satisfy a question, or maybe to help somebody, you get where they're going with that, maybe to help the prosecution's case, that you might think that it's a real memory, but it's not a memory, and you're coming up with false details. She then said that you may even remember memories to make yourself feel better and think that you did something when you really didn't. And that if you label something a certain way, that can affect your memory. Obviously, these are all questions in this case, all issues. And the bottom line that the defense was going with is that these accusers, their memories are not reliable. Not saying that they're even lying, just their memories, their recall of what happened with Harvey Weinstein. These are contaminated memories, distorted facts, and that was an important point. Now, having said that, under cross-examination, Jonah Luzzi alluded to the fact that this witness is biased. And she first said, you wrote a book called Witness for the Defense. Did you ever write a book called Witness for the Prosecution? No. And the big point there was that she always testifies for the defense. Jonah Luzzi said that she accused her of tailoring her testimony to fit the facts of this case. And she highlighted one point in particular. Under direct examination, this expert was asked about prescription medication and how that affects memory. Now, out of all the prescription medications that one could talk about, she talked about Valium. And Jonah Luzzi said, out of all the medications, that's what you focus on? Why'd you focus on that? Because we all know that Valium became an issue when it came to Annabella Shora. This witness conceded that she read something about this case and Valium was brought up. So she said that she talked about that, and she at least alluded to the fact that she tailored her testimony in a certain way. This witness also conceded that when you have traumatic events, you might not remember the key certain details of what happened, but you'll remember the core event. In other words, although this wasn't brought up in questioning, if you're raped, you're going to remember that you're raped. You might not remember the time, the date, or where it happened, but you'll remember that you're raped. And so that was an interesting line of cross-examination, and it's up to the jury now to take what they will of that witness. After that, we heard from one more witness from the defense. This was a forensic document examiner who was tasked with analyzing Miriam Haley's calendar, and more specifically, the cross-offs that Miriam Haley allegedly conducted there. The defense has been saying that she deliberately crossed off references or communications with Harvey Weinstein in that calendar, perhaps to hide information. And that obviously strikes at her credibility. What does she have to hide? So we heard from these two witnesses. It was an early day, and we heard from the judge as he was excusing the jury for today that Monday will be a very long and thorough day, possibly with more of the defense's witnesses.
Thank you, Jesse. Now, just got one or two follow-up questions out of my own curiosity. Was there any redirect of that doctor after that kind of stunning cross-examination that you described?
Yeah, absolutely. It was this kind of like back and forth with there's one question and then a redirect. It's kind of interesting. And the point was, yes, they were focusing a lot on the fact that her testimony wouldn't have changed about what memory is and memory details, whether she was testifying for the defense or the prosecution, that she's not biased in any way. And the other part in redirect was that Valium is one of those prescription medications that has come up in this doctor's studies before. And yes, she brought it up because she heard something about Valium in this case, but even if she didn't, she would have mentioned it otherwise. That seemed to be where the redirect was going.
Now, you said that Monday is anticipated to be a very long day. Any clue as to what witnesses might take the stand, what we're going to be expecting, how long that day might actually be?
I expect a long day. We have to hear from a man named Warren Leight, who was the director of one of Annabella Shore's early films in 1992, 1993, and I believe he is being called to contradict the testimony of Annabella Shore. Maybe more specifically, what was she like on set? You remember, the state has been accusing Harvey Weinstein of being responsible for Annabella Shore getting addicted to medication or becoming an alcoholic, and perhaps he can testify to the fact that Annabella Shore was difficult on her own and came to set possibly intoxicated, and perhaps this was before Harvey Weinstein allegedly raped her. So we believe we're going to hear from him. We also think that the defense will bring a witness to contradict the testimony of each one of the accusers. Now, what we've heard from the judge earlier on is that the defense case will last maybe 2 more days, maybe 3, and after that, we're expecting closing arguments. So when that'll start, when that'll happen, remember, next Wednesday is a holiday. There's going to be no court then, but this could be in the jury's hands by the end of next week.
Can you give us just a flavor of the atmosphere? What are you perceiving that people are hearing or seeing or feeling in the court, both in the stands and also for the jurors?
There's a part of the reporters who seem to be chuckling when Dr. Elizabeth Loftus was providing her testimony, and you could interpret that as if they don't find her credible. To quote Judge Burke, before the jury even came in, he said, you know, it's up to the jury to decide whether or not an expert is hocus pocus. Perhaps some of the reporters didn't really believe what she had to say. The jury paying very careful attention. They smirk at times. This seems to be a very attentive jury, but also the kind of jury that understands the main points of these witnesses immediately. And it should be noted, I want to mention Harvey Weinstein. You know, after yesterday, where Paul Felcher, who was the first defense witness to testify, controversial witness, testified in a way that was probably problematic for the defense. I mean, he did concede that Harvey Weinstein is a sex addict and said that he has a vociferous appetite with women. You would imagine that Harvey Weinstein was not too happy with Paul Felcher's testimony. Having said that, when he came into court, I was actually outside, his photo was being taken, and when a question was posed to Harvey Weinstein, is Paul Felcher still your friend? Harvey Weinstein said he did a great job. So it gives you a perspective that Harvey Weinstein, I don't know if he really felt that way. He's been pretty vocal with reporters at times, seems jovial, but it is a tense atmosphere at times. But also Judge Burke keeps it light. He was joking around a little bit. I will mention there was a funny part where Jonah Luzzi, when she was questioning this memory expert, the memory expert said to one question, "I don't recall." And Jonah Luzzi said, "Is that because of some post-event information?" There was a large chuckle in the courtroom. So there are times that it is kept light, but we can't forget the gravity of the situation.
Yeah, now, oftentimes, and I know this case has been going on for 10, 12, I think today's day 13 days, it's hard to see where the case is going. So just for today, do you think that the needle has moved more towards the defense or more towards the prosecution? Do you get a sense that today, and today only, have we moved anywhere closer to either a guilty or not guilty?
I think it raises a line of questions for the jury in terms of recall and memory. Having said that, today, because there was just these 2 witnesses, I think it gave them room to think, but not room to sway. Given the overall theme of this case, it's hard to know where the jury's going. The prosecution did put on a very strong case, and now I believe the defense did also a really, really powerful job of cross-examining those witnesses. It's time for them to start their case, and it's a question if the jury believes the defense is doing a good job at this point.
All right, Jesse, I want to thank you very much for being there. I know you've been there for quite some time today. I'm going to leave you with this. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend. I'm sure we'll see you again on Monday as you're giving us live coverage.
Thanks. You too, my friend.
Have a good one. All right, so we're going to continue with more of the Hess case. Of course, give you expert legal analysis after this break.